So I kept an office up here at 1 Parker Place. I've been there for 53 years. I'm the resident ghost at 1 Parker Place. I've been there ever since 1956. So I kept an office, and I go down there now every morning. But I thought, well, now that was fun. But I thought, like a lot of retired business people, when I retired, they were going to be knocking on my door, asking me to do consulting and speaking and being on boards. Didn't get a one. Didn't get a one for a year. So I thought, well, what else can I do? Well, maybe I can write another book. Well, what could I write a book about? Well, about small businesses going overseas, because there are estimated 200,000 medium and small-sized businesses in the United States capable of exporting but not doing it. And Parker had become extremely successful in it, and I had learned about it. So I proposed to this publisher that I do a book on how to get into exporting. So I did that one, and then one thing just led to another. And different subjects came along on protocol and etiquette and behavior and gestures. And
so there's all these things that Parker Pen learned to do very well that had nothing to do with pens necessarily.
No.
But there were business skills and all those things that you could pass on to others.
We managed to work into each book the idea that pens made good gifts, and Parker was very well known. And
welcome to Britain. Here's your pen.
That's right, exactly. And it still works. I mean, I've been retired now for 22 years, and you still read and hear stories about Parker and its success overseas. They have not done as well in the United States. The name is unfortunately declining. They've been to 3 different owners in the process. Gillette didn't know what to do with it. Gillette owned Papermate. Papermate was a low-priced pen.
Which Parker is not meant to be.
No, exactly. And Gillette lost $300 million on the whole thing, if you can imagine. But they were selling razor blades that just automatically walked off the shelves. And they sold it. They bought it from a group of British investors who bought Parker in 1987, who went back to the birthright, went back to the high-priced business and did very well, and sold it to Gillette for $500 million. They bought it for $150 million in 1987, and they sold it to Gillette, I forget the year, 1982, or 92. And they sold it for $400 million, and Gillette lost a lot of the money, and they ended up selling it to
Rubbermaid?
Right.
If that's even the top name for the conglomerate, or if there's a bigger brand or something.
And they've done very well with it. That's good. That's quite right. They have a pen division. They now own Waterman, Parker, Papermate, Uniball, and several other office products.
Household names.
Newell Rubbermaid, it's called.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Right. And there is an operation here, Sanford Inc. They own Sanford Inc., which was a big name many years ago. And so there is a remnant of Parker still in Janesville.
Now, how did you decide to I guess I'm trying to figure out, when you are an expert in etiquette, which of course makes everyone, including me, very uncomfortable, because I'm going, am I doing things the right way? Am I?
On the contrary, my books are all about making mistakes and the mistakes that I made. So
and that's how you gain experience.
And a lot of people contributed a lot of ideas.
Is that something that you decided to, as just a marketing idea, or is that something that you feel is important to help people with?
Well, both. We kind of fell into this niche, and as I said, each book was a little bit different. The book on gestures, well, then I started getting on the speaking circuit, because people thought...
I was going to mention, you're an amazing speaker.
Well, thank you. But that's been something that's been very enjoyable and much more rewarding than the book business. I can tell you, the book business establishes your territory and gives you the credentials.
I see.
That's right. And but it's called the trade paperback nonfiction business. I've got 10 books up there now, and I couldn't possibly make a living if I had to just on the book business. It does not pay that well. But that leads you to the speaking circuit, and if you can develop a program and if you can get some visibility, which I did, fortunately, through the books and through the public relations people at my publishers. And I got on the Today Show and the Good Morning America and CNN and so on and so forth. And then people start calling and say, well, if he writes a book, he must be able to speak. Well, that doesn't necessarily follow. But I was able to build up a basic couple of programs, doing every Rotary Club and Garden Club and retired teachers association. Pretty soon they hand you a check for $50 or $100, and then they say, well, we've only got $300 in our budget. Is that all right? Yeah, that's fine. That's great. And then I kept moving up the ladder, and then I would write speaker bureaus, and I'd say, I'm available. Well, they're not interested in taking an unknown quantity. So you have to get up. I wrote a book on public speaking, by the way, and in there it tells you how to get on the professional speaking circuit. And the one way is keep getting your speaker fees up to, say, about $2,000, because the speaker bureau takes 25%. So they don't want 25% of $300. They want, if you can,
Right.
2,000 would be 500. So then they start getting you some jobs. And then one thing leads to another, and as I say, it's almost embarrassing that you're giving basically the same program with a lot of the same stories. And my little niche was information about how to avoid goofs and gaffes and faux pas by telling stories about people who made mistakes. And people seem to enjoy it, and if they laughed, well, they learned all the better. So that's what I've been doing for 25 years, and I'm slowly backing off it, though.
Well, I saw you give a speech when you were recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award with Forward Janesville.
Right.
And that was just such a good story about you running for president, I believe, of Boys Town or
Badger Boy State, yeah.
Badger Boy State, and how you didn't win, and you wanted to, and the other kid did, and he was carried off by the other boys.
You've got a good memory.
It was a great story.
But that's one of the tricks, is to build up a library of stories that have a mission, a story behind them. And that story was the other fellow won, and
Number 73. Story number 73.
yeah, and I was standing there all alone, 750 boys, and they'd all elected him. And I was standing there, and this kindly organizer of the event came over and put his arm around me. He said, "Roger, you have learned more than Alan there. You have learned the lesson of disappointment." And I thought, if it's all the same to you, I'd like to be learning what Alan is learning there. I'll learn disappointment some other time. So you tell that story, and people identify with it, and you do about 45 minutes or so, and if you can get them laughing and yet learning, each one has a little moral to it. So don't ask me to rip off a couple of them. I have to go
Kinda
through
get
it.
into
I have to
it.
get into a sequence, yeah. I will tell you one story about being on the national television, which, that's pretty heady stuff. But I've been on Good Morning America now 6 times. And they call you up, and they say, we'd like you to be. They like a lot of authors because they don't have to pay them. And they're easily available. And if they've written something interesting, then they know you got it. At any rate, the routine is they call you up and would like you to be here on such and such a day. They won't pay your airfare. Your publisher will pay your airfare. At any rate, I went out to New York one time, and you check into their hotel, the Regis something, and I went up to the front desk, and my name's Axtell. "Oh, yes. Oh, you're in the Good Morning America suite." They're looking at the computer. "Oh, and while you're here, you're supposed to charge everything you want. And at 6 o'clock a.m. tomorrow morning, your chauffeur will be here with the limo to take you to the show."
Not a horse carriage?
No. So I said, "Well, thank you very much." And I walked away, and I heard the one young lady say to the other young lady, "Who was that?" And the other one said, "That was nobody." So they keep your
That's how you find out.
keep your feet down on the ground. And I was. There was nobody. Somebody from Janesville, Wisconsin, who wrote a couple of books.
It's Parker Pen Guy.
Yeah. They let you get a plug. They let you get 2 plugs in for your company. But if you do more than that, they get unhappy.